My name is Jacqueline Green and I live in Elizabeth, New Jersey. I was diagnosed with HCM at the age of 47. I wasn't sure how it was going to affect my life. I was going on just as I normally had. I just decided that I needed to find a cardiologist that I was seeing regularly, but I wasn't sure how it was going to change my life. Once my son was diagnosed, I knew that my husband had no issues in his family. I kind of figured it was probably me.
My name is Jeremiah Green and I'm from Elizabeth, New Jersey. I was diagnosed with HCM at 17 years old. My diagnosis for me was heartbreaking because for a time in my life I felt like handicapped.
So I'm Gianna Duddy, I'm from Montville, New Jersey. I'm 21 now, and I was diagnosed at 8. Being told I had HCM was, again, a weird feeling because I was 8, so I was like, okay, I don't know what you're telling me, like, this doesn't really matter much to me. But again, as I got older and I kind of settled with the diagnosis, it put into perspective, like, what it really means.
My name is Rebecca Salberg, and I am born and raised in Rockaway, New Jersey. I was found gene positive at 7, and then I was diagnosed at 10. Life as a kid was always a little bit different, you know, because knowing our family history already, we already knew I was most likely going to test gene positive and have that diagnosis. And then when it ultimately came up, it came up. But, you know, I couldn't run on the field with the kids. I couldn't keep up with the kids, which is a little challenging, especially being a young one, you know, first grade, second grade, and kindergarten. You're just playing around like crazy, but I just couldn't keep up. And that was when my mom started to realize we might have some HCM in there.
HCM, or hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, abbreviated HCM, is our most common genetic heart disease. The vast majority of patients with HCM have a life expectancy that is normal or near normal.
Historically, the prevalence of HCM was quoted as about 1 in every 500 people worldwide, but with better diagnosis and better technology to diagnose it, we think that it may be as many as 1 in every 250 people worldwide.
So, you know, it's often called the Great Masquerader because the symptoms of HCM are the same of almost any other cardiac condition.
But the most common symptoms are shortness of breath, effort intolerance, fatigue, dizzy, lightheaded, anginal type chest pain. So they may have chest pain that sounds like a heart attack.
You also need to know your family history because the presence of HCM, the hint for its presence, might be that tragic sudden death of this cousin that happened 10 years ago at the age of 25 when they were out running, playing, whatever. In other words, our hint to the presence of this inherited heart disease that can run in the family may be in the family history.
It's important to know your personal history and your family heart history so that you can rule out if this is something that you have.
I think knowing about their family's heart history, again, is insanely important because it's not something that people think about. Your heart isn't something you're aware of all the time, so you might not know if something's wrong. And I think having that told to you ahead of time so you can prepare and plan your life the best you can will help you just going forward.
So what is the Healthy Cardiac Monitoring Act? This is not a bill that is only for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. There are many disorders, including hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, dilated cardiomyopathy, arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, long QT syndrome, Brugada syndrome, channelopathies, and congenital defects that affect young people. The Healthy Cardiac Monitoring Act trains medical professionals on what these diseases are, make sure that we are looking for these diseases in the well child examination, as well as the sports participation physicals required by many states and jurisdictions. And it is really important for people to know their family heart health history so that they can share that information with their chosen healthcare provider and appropriate testing can take place to determine if that individual and that family is at risk.
Finding out I had HCM at the age of 7 definitely gave me an advantage to understand my future. Right? If the HCM Act is passed, that gives the opportunity for life. You know, it's 1 in 300. The numbers used to be 1 in 500 when I was diagnosed. So now we know it's more prevalent. Think about how many kids could be saved, right? We have the sudden cardiac arrests on the field when they're doing sports. We can avoid that. And if we can avoid that and save lives, that is more than enough reason that this should be enacted.
The HCM Act will give parents a heads up, give them time to find somebody, and realize that they're not playing the normal game, that they're in a field that's much different than everybody else is in. And it's going to forewarn them, as opposed to us finding out, the hard way.
While we're looking specifically at children and young athletes, the information derived in these clinic appointments will also be able to be used for the parents and siblings of these individuals. So if we find one person with a genetic heart disease, we have the opportunity to impact the entire family, from grandma and grandpa on down to infants. So understanding how we can get access to these families is critical.
The HCM Act is a really special piece of legislation that has the power to improve health outcomes in HCM patients and, in fact, all patients who are young with cardiovascular health conditions.
It's very important that we convey the message to our communities and to our lawmakers that these types of heart diseases should be paid attention to, invested in, and that we should commit resources to it.
Genetic testing in the HCM Act, I think we can help prevent and create a different path for a lot of young people, whether they're active or not. That could potentially change their future.
So if we have the opportunity to have a meaningful dialogue with the doctor, the patient, the parent about family heart health history, we're going to be able to identify more families and save more lives.